Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today's going to be an especially fun one, so watch this one all the way through, because what I need you guys to do today is tell me if you agree or disagree about my absolute favorite legendaries, okay? Leave me your top 3 favorite legendaries that you have in the game. Don't forget to like the video if you want to help me out, and subscribe to be notified of more videos like this. Man, I can't speak today. This is going to be an interesting video. So Sithalia is going to be my pick for the Banner Lords. And the reason is she is kind of a timeless kit. It's going to be good no matter what. So if you look at her, she has a 50% chance of placing an HP burn. HP burn has gotten better with time. People are using it for all sorts of dungeons these days. Removing all debuffs from a singular ally and then places block debuffs on the ally for 2 turns. Block debuffs, as we know, is a pretty high tier buff. And it also heals that ally 75% of their max HP, which is the largest singular spot heal in the game. For this reason, I'm actually a really big fan of her, because you can use that 75 max HP and it goes down to a 2-turn cooldown, and her base speed's pretty good too. So what you can do is kind of continually spot heal any one person that might be getting nuked. So if you have a boss you're fighting that does single target damage pretty hard, she's a great counter for that. But she also heals all the other allies 20% of their max HP, and fills their turn meter by 15% if the target's fully healed by this skill. So for teams that are fairly healthy, or if she goes fast enough in the wave that she goes first, she's pretty solid. Not only does she give you a big heal, block debuffs, but you get that turn meter fill. I love that. This is really where she shines though. This goes down to 100% in a 3-turn cooldown when fully booked, and it has a 100% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies. That's amazing. It could just be that move, still great. But then it decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 10% and fills the turn meter of all allies by 10%. So that right there, amazing. Turn meter control once again. So she has turn meter control on 2 of these abilities now. Decreases the turn meter of all allies by 20% and fills the turn meter of all allies by 20% if 5 or more buffs were removed. So you can get additional turn meter control there. Again, 3-turn cooldown, and this can go down to a 2-turn cooldown, okay? So you can use it, then you use the A3, then you use your basic, then you go back to this one, then it goes back to this one. So you get the moves up fairly quickly. Magic ally resistant all battles isn't that useful, but really the A2 and the A3, just solid premium moves. She's a great character. All of the books make sense. Buff, debuff chance there. Heal, and cooldown. The only one you don't really need is this one, unless you want the extra 10%. But all in all, if you post Sithalia, you should be fairly happy. I've used her, and I have fully booked her myself. I'll show you, just to show you, I did in fact put my money where my mouth is on this character, and I've been a really big fan. I've used her in significant amounts of content. There she is, and yes, she is in fact booked. I did think it was worth it. Masteries are there. I just have her in the accuracy masteries. There's better masteries you can put on her. But big fan of Sithalia for sure. You pull her, absolutely want to max her. Now, the High Elves, for me, there's not really a contest. It's with Sandra. She's my absolute 100% favorite, and it's really for just one reason entirely, which is turn meter control. If you look, the ally speed in all battles, 24%. So you can put her as the lead in any team that you don't really happen to have a good lead, or just a team where speed's going to build out what you need. Her A3 gives increased speed once again, goes down to a 4-turn cooldown, fills the turn meter of all allies, and also important, decreases the turn meter of all enemies, 30% on both. 30% is a big chunk for AoE. Now the A2 is amazing because it goes down to 3 turns and it fully depletes the target's turn meter, which is actually better than 100%. If you didn't know, your turn meter can go over 100%. And so effectively what this does is, if you have this combined with the A3 and the speed move, if you have her fast enough, she can completely lock out certain bosses. For instance, in Fire Knight 20, if you have her over, I think it's 212 speed or something like that, plus her aura, she will be able to keep the Fire Knight, once the shield's down, from never taking a turn. So all you need is just that one character, and now you suddenly can beat it. On top of that, she obviously can destroy waves with the A3. She doesn't have to actually hit somebody for the A3 to trigger that turn meter reduction. So because of that, she doesn't hit weak. She'll go ahead and use this move on everybody. You just have to have enough accuracy. The basic's nice too, which transfers all the debuffs from herself to the target. I can use this sometimes. It's actually... one thing I found that was kind of funny about it is in Clan Boss, when you have the Force of Feigning, you're getting attacked down, and you can respond with the transfer and put attack down back on the boss. So you don't actually need the attack down for that. It's just one little thing I found. But the other thing is, look at their base speed. It's 110, which is extremely high. So speed gear is very, very good on her. You get the whole concept behind her. She's a speed queen. She's supposed to just be as fast as possible and locking out the enemy entirely. She's amazing in every bit of content I've ever used her in. I've even trolled around with her in Clan Boss, like I'm saying, as a speed lead, just because I like trying these fun Clan Boss teams. If you pull with Sandra, she's an automatic max. She's good in PvP, PvE, Faction Wars, Doom Tower, Dungeons, everything in the game. Now, Sacred Order gets a little bit harder because, as you can see, I haven't actually pulled too many of them. So from experience, it would probably be Santa. But the one I want to say that I wish I had was Venus. I think Venus is potentially overall the best character in the game. I've been saying this for a while, and the reason I believe this is she has everything you really want in a kit. I think she kind of has fallen off the top of, you know, the food chain pyramid over time, but let's just go over this, okay? Basic attack, 50% chance each time of placing 5% poison. So right off the bat, 5% poison is insane. We all know that 5% poison is good on every boss. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing, this is 100% when booked, the decreased defense and the weakened. So now we have a sort of a Draco move, but it's also, she's void, so you do damage on top of it and you're not going to hit weak. So you also get the AoE damage while placing defense and weaken, which is insane. Then here we have attacks all enemies. This is only bummer parts, a 75% chance, now 100% chance when booked for HP burn for 2 turns. HP burn, once again, one of the better moves in the game, plus she already has poison on the basic, so automatically we know she's insane in Clan Boss, she's insane in anything that needs that percentage damage. Then look at here, it removes all, this is only when you have Cupidus though, so if you have him, kind of cool, removes all buffs from the enemies, 50% chance of granting an extra turn. Most of the time you're not going to have Cupidus on your team, so you don't really get to use that move. And then you have ally HP in all battles. Now, ally HP in all battles can be used, especially early if you pull her. However, the A3, the A2, and the A1 are all so solid. I mean, we could have gone with Cardell, who's obviously OP and overloaded, but in my opinion, Venus is one of the best utility characters you're going to get because she has everything that you really want in a kit. Like, if you have her, you've built out not only wave damage in utility, you've dealt with Spider with HP burn in the HP burn Doom Tower bosses. You've got poison for any boss they're having trouble DPSing down. She's essentially insane, and I believe that she's going to scale extremely well as more and more content comes to the game. Plus, she's not even really a speed type of character, but she still has 112 base speed, which is absolutely nuts. So this character has great base stats, and she has 22,000 base health as well. Her moves are based upon attack, and she does have okay attack at almost 1100, not amazing, but mostly she's utility, and the damage comes from the percentage of the HP burn and the poisons. This is somebody you want to book. If you pull, the books are pretty much amazing. You try to want to avoid the A1, get the A2, get the A3 for the cooldown, the buff chance. But man, I wish I had Venus. Now, my next choice, and this is for the Barbarians, is going to be Alton, which he's no longer as overloaded as he used to be. He used to be really a top tier character. He's still very good, but he used to be one of the best. The reason being, he has the decreased attack, which used to be not as plentiful as it is now. Then the A2 is really cool because it does increase defense on all your allies. Places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 20% of their max HP if it kills an enemy. Obviously, the shield's not really going to happen in Clan Boss, but you do get the increased defense. Now, the reason people use him, it's not for the passive either, where it revives somebody random and resets his move when he kills somebody, but everyone uses him because his aura had 33% defense for an aura for all battles, so great in Clan Boss. And then this move here, plus the A1, hit really hard. He's based upon defense, and that's almost 1400 defense base and 102 speed, which isn't too bad. And he hits really hard. You can get this down to a 3-turn cooldown. I did fully build out my Alton, and I used them for a very long time. I'm probably still going to use them when I rebuild my Clan Boss team. I pulled a bunch of gear off him, etc. This is just where I have him right now, kind of it's some random stuff with 204 crit damage and 3400 defense, and he can still pop really hard. I mean, over 100,000 damage easily with his smacks in the Clan Boss. Huge fan of him. I think that he's a little underrated in this day and age because, unfortunately, other attack-based characters have come out. I mean, there's like Martyr who does attack down, defense up, and all that. But Alton still holds the test of time. Because when you're building clan boss teams and dungeon teams, you kind of have to put these puzzle pieces together, right? It's like, oh, okay, I need this, I need that. If you get in a position where you need a defense up and attack down and an aura, he fits that spot perfect. It might seem like a pretty peculiar spot for him to fit, but that does actually happen more times than not. And I like the fact that he's a magic affinity defense up, attack down as well, okay? Because there's a lot of other attack downs, like Vizier, for instance, is force, etc. So I've used him a lot. I still do use him. And if you get him, I recommend building him. Now, you probably don't have to book him, but if you want a higher percent chance, or you can get him up to 75% chance of that attack down, which if you don't have a counterattacking clan boss or a charge, it might be necessary to keep that attack there. Or else you can get away without booking him if you don't really mind not having the cooldown. However, he's worth the books. I mean, he just hits so hard. Okay, for Organ Tribes, it's definitely Gorgo. Gorgo is highly underrated, and really there's only one thing well, there's two things in his kit that matter. Okay, so first of all, let's just go through his A1. Attacks an enemy twice, extra hit if they have freeze. Not a big deal. His A3, attacks an enemy, extra hit if they have freeze. Okay, so obviously this guy's based upon freeze. Now his A2 is where it's at, which he removes 2 random buffs from all enemies, 100% when booked, chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, and grants an extra turn. So it removes the buffs before it places the freeze, so it'll remove, like, you know, block debuffs, for instance, and then place the freeze. Then he gets an extra turn, goes down to a 4-turn cooldown because of the extra turn, then you book him, goes down to a 3-turn cooldown, okay? So now you have a freeze for 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown, which is pretty good. Now, if you look at the passive here, 50% chance of freezing somebody if somebody hits him and makes him lose more than 20% of his max HP. He doesn't have that high of HP anyway, so you're probably going to have this trigger, or at least get the coin flip for the triggering. His aura is garbage, his ally attack and faction crypts, they need to give him a better one. But the A2 is so good that I think people underrate him a little bit. He used to be used in Platinum Arena for a while. I don't believe people still really use him because a power creep has happened. There are better characters now. But Gorgo, I have 2 of them and I'm a big fan. Whoa, while I'm actually recording something off camera. Kami, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. I guess this is a great time to plug my YouTube membership. You can become a YouTube member for as cheap as $2 and get perks on the channel and show up in random videos like that, I guess. All right, Lizardman, we all know where I'm going. It's Dracomorph, the guy that I spent $16,000 in 2 years chasing. And let me tell you, he deserves every bit of hype he gets. The basic attack was so broken that they had to nerf it. It's chain lightning. It would go from person to person, just KOing them and getting stronger and stronger as it went down the line. He's also one of the only people in the game that has the 63% base crit damage. There's not too many people that have that. His A2, 4 poisons, just happens. It's not a percentage chance. The A3, 25% weakens, 60% defense, down, debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, goes down to a 3-turn cooldown, which is nuts. Okay, I have him in Relentless just so if he gets an extra turn, then he can pop off with the chain lightning a lot. 4 times a random with the poisons, amazing on bosses. He's based upon attack, and he does scale well with attack. He hits hard. His aura kind of blows. It's just ally accuracy and faction crypts. But let me tell you, man, every video you've seen on this guy, it's true. This guy is a nut job, okay? I mean, Dracomorph is one of the best characters in the entire game. He also looks awesome. There's not a lot to say about him other than you pull this guy, he's useful in every single piece of content. I use him over my Lydia. I would use him over Venus. I mean, he's just insane. For Skinwalkers, it would be Brachus. I've actually wished multiple times I have this guy. I really like his passive, which the active effect, okay? Which is he revives the champion with 20% when killed, immediately grants an extra turn, goes down to a 5-turn cooldown. And you can see the passive damage increases by 40% when the champion's HP drops below 40%. So if he dies, he's going to come back with 20% HP, give it a bonus turn, right? And he's going to have that 40% damage. Which what happens is we look at his moves. His A1 is just an attacking enemy. He was 15%. Kind of cool, lifesteal off the basic. But then this is the move he's probably going to use when he revives, which attacks one enemy 6 times, okay? The first hit has 75% chance of placing a 25% weakened debuff for 3 turns, not the normal 2. Heals him by 25% of the damage inflicted, okay? So essentially, you're going to weaken him, then hit him 5 more times. Weaken does affect the damage of Giant Slayer, so you put Giant Slayer on him and you choose through people. Heals the champion 50% of the damage inflicted instead of the targets under fear or true fear, okay? Fear and true fear, how would they get that? Places 50% attack buff on all allies for 3 turns and attacks one enemy 3 times. Again, he's a triple hit there. Another Giant Slayer move. Each hit is a 50% chance of placing true fear debuff for 1 turn, 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on 2 random enemies for 1 turn if the true fear is placed. So you get how it works. He attacks a guy, scares the crap out of him, hits him a bunch, maybe fears the other people around him, right? And then if he dies, he becomes a nuke. He pops off and, one-shots people with his A2. This guy has made me lose more arena battles than I really care to say, and I also believe that he is really, really good against dungeon bosses because of that whole Giant Slayer effect where you get, the 6 hit and the 3 hit there. You can proc that all the time. It does just a bazillion damage. You look at the reviews, people really like him. If you pull him, he's probably worth the books. I mean, the damage is a pretty big deal, but getting this down to a 3-turn cooldown is really the important part. Oryx has, Oryx kind of has 2 of them, to be fair, for me, because the first one would have been Robar pre-nerf. So before they nerfed Relentless, he would pop off insane. If he got the stun and he had Relentless, then effectively what would happen is he'd get 2 extra turns, and then the 2 turns would stack, so you could really have like 20 turns just stacked in a row, and he would just go nonstop. And I love the way that worked. But since he's nerfed and it doesn't work anymore, it's now Warlord for me. I've used Warlord in almost every bit of content. He's amazing in PvP and PvE, mostly because of his A3, which has a 100% chance when booked to put each target's skills on cooldown, and then also has a chance of fully depleting their turn meter as well. Now, like Sandra, fully depleting turn meter is a really big deal. It doesn't happen all of the time, which is a bummer, but this goes down to a 4-turn cooldown, and it happens enough that it's pretty solid. Plus, just putting the skills on cooldown is really good. His A2 is also solid, 3-turn cooldown, block debuffs for a turn, places shield for 30% of Warlord's max HP for 2 turns, and heals all ally by 25% of their max HP. So because of that, he's also very good sustain. So not only is he kind of controlling the enemy, but he's also kind of controlling your own health. Now, the basic attack is another reason people use him, because you have a chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target. So that's very good in things like Clan Boss. All right, so he's useful in every part of the map. I've used him in my Doom Tower team. I've used him in PvP. He's got a lot of use there. He's really good in Clan Boss. He's good in the new dungeons. He's good in any bit of content you either stay alive, control the enemy, or even, to be honest, or even just increasing the duration of debuffs. Now, to be fair, people like Vizier are going to do the duration of, the debuffs way better, but there isn't that many people that do this on a basic attack. So you compare him with a counter attack, for instance, and in Clan Boss build, kind of a classic Clan Boss team, and it works very well. He also has ally resist in all battles, which is never a bad aura. You can use that in almost every bit of content as well. Warlord is sort of like having a hammer if you're a craftsman, okay? He's usable. You need what his kit has, effectively. He's very usable. No matter what you're doing, you probably want to have him. Now, in Demonspawn, I want to say Duchess, but I feel like that's pretty much the boring pick that everyone's talked about. So I actually kind of want to go with my buddy Candifron. Now, Candifron, not only does he look like my Cthulhu mask, so I'm a pretty big fan of him there. I'm pretty sure they added him in the game just for me back in the day. But if you look at this here, he also has this move, okay? Attacks all enemies, grants an extra turn, and resets the cooldown of On the Hunt skill if it kills an enemy. What's On the Hunt? So On the Hunt here places Perfect Veil, increased attack, increased speed, and increased damage on himself, okay? That's pretty good. Now we need to look at his passive, which damage increases by 40% while attacking under a Veil, receives 40% damage while under the Veil, bursts his turn meter by 15% each time he receives damage under the Veil, and does not work if the champion's the only one alive on the team. Has an active effect too, which places a Perfect Veil on this champion for 1 turn each time an enemy's turn meter is failed. So, for instance, like in Faction Wars, when the Valkyrie fills their turn meter, this here will then place a Veil on him, which then allows you to trigger this move. The problem is you really need the A3 to be on before you do the A2. His basic attacks, and we're not really talking about because it's literally just he hits an enemy, hits again if they're under any buff. The deal with him is he does an insane amount of damage. He's sort of an AoE one-shotter. He's actually one of the hardest hitters in the game. He has 1500 base attack as well, ally attack in arena battles, which isn't really that useful, to be honest, at the higher end. But Candifron is used at the Platinum tier for AoE nuking. I've talked to a few people who use him for that. I've also used him not in arena, but in PvE to nuke waves. I can one-shot waves entirely with him. He's somebody that scales well with gear. My problem with most of these damage dealers like him is if you have bad gear, they seem like they're trash. If you don't have them booked, they seem like they're trash, all that. Because you really want to get the 3-turn cooldown, the extra damage on this move, because he's all about that A2, which Octopus, Tentacles come up and slap and all that. And if you don't have amazing gear, he's not going to look that good, unfortunately. But he is good, is the thing. He's a good character. He needs everything around him to work for him to work. You need, defense down and weaken on somebody so you can get the big one shot and all that. So I think he's probably slept on a lot, mostly because people haven't got him built to the potential he can be. And I probably don't even have him built to the potential he can be because my Savage gear is garbage. But I do believe this character is a complete nut job and I love him. The more I look at this character, and I've been thinking this for a while, but I really do believe somebody over there made this because of me back in the day. Because it doesn't make sense. He's a Demonspawn. He's got the Cthulhu thing, but they put barnacles and stuff on too. We're the Well Pod. I have a Cthulhu mask hanging on my wall that we wear. I think there was a fan that did the art for this one. For Undead, again, 2 choices. The boring one would be Sifi. The other boring one would be Necrit the Great. Necrit the Great's the character I've said I want more than anyone right now. That's probably still true. But instead of going over his 18 moves, I want to go with something that's a little bit more legacy, classic character. Bad Alcazar is a character that is still useful, is still one of the top tier characters, he can even still solo Dragon 25, can solo Ice Golem 25, if you didn't know. He's that strong. He can solo all of it. Why? Because if you look at A2 removes all debuffs from all allies, places 2 continuous heal buffs on all allies, replaces 2 poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns. He's a one move wonder, basically. Heals everyone, damages everyone, cleanses everyone. He's got everything you want in one move, and it's a 3-turn cooldown, which means you use the move, you take a turn, now it's 2 turn, right? So you go back, take another turn, then another turn. So if you have it on reflex, you can basically get this to go every other turn if reflex procs. I love reflex gear on him. That's what I have him in currently. The basic's good too because it heals people just based upon the damage he does. So he is constant AoE. You can also put him in stun set for that reason. Then the A3, it's a passive, I should say, 20% more damage to targets under poison debuff. Just flat 20% more damage across the board. Amazing. Makes everyone else better on your team. And if that's not good enough, he actually has an aura that I think is probably the most underrated aura, which is crit rate in all battles. Dropping crit rate by 25% for all your champions and then putting him as the lead allows you to build more crit damage. It's not a build people do very often. I like to talk about stuff that people don't do very often because it might work for somebody that's newer or in a position where they just don't have the gear, but they have bad Alcazar or something. So don't feel bad about not maxing out crit rate and using him as an aura. I've done that before on my main account back in the day because I pulled bad L and I didn't have crit rate all the way. Plus, he just looks fabulous. It's just a fabulous looking character, and this character is triple S plus, amazing, great base stats. Really a good. The only thing that would make him better is if they gave him the 63% crit damage, but still, I love Bad Al. He is really, really fun and really, really good. And you can build him multiple ways: stun set, reflex, pure speed. It doesn't matter. Now, Dark Elves for me, I have somebody that I'm a little bit in love with that I don't own, which is Ghostborn. This guy has something that I'm a huge, huge fan of, which is an unresistible move. So I believe unresistible is probably the best thing in the game. It allows you to completely drop your accuracy stat, and it also removes the RNG behind actually placing debuffs. So things like this, where it allows you to decrease defense on everybody, cannot be resisted, means it will literally just happen. It's gonna happen. Unless you hit weak, it will in fact happen. I love that because there is a base chance to continually get resisted no matter, you can have 1 million accuracy and they can have 0 resistance and you can still get resisted. There's a base chance in some of these, for instance, like Spider Dungeon. So having him on your kit will allow you to get past the RNG and make it 100% consistent. Now he has other moves here. I didn't even talk about him in this one. He also does 50% attack up and all that. This attacks all enemies with a heal reduction. This here has another decreased defense on the basic. But to be honest, none of that really matters, even though that's 100%. It's all about his A3, which is unresistible defense down. Just like Ignatius, unresistible HP burn. Anything that's unresistible is really, really big deal, which is why Sifi's basic attack that's unresistible sleep is such a big deal, to give you an idea because of that. Ally accuracy and faction crypts is garbage, but really cool. Also, if you didn't know, this dagger right here is a reference to a dagger from World of Warcraft. There's one that actually looks almost identical, except these gems here float around it, and the dagger is covered a color a little different. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but this is actually like a level 78 blue item from a quest way back in the day. I remember this one. Now, Knight Revenant is Tomblord for me, which might seem like a little weird pick. Again, this isn't supposed to be an underrated video, but for whatever reason, I just really kind of like the oddballs. Maybe it's because I pulled them early. Like, the legendaries I pulled early in my count were mostly all the trash ones or the oddballs. Like, Tomblord was one of the first legendaries I pulled. I believe my first legendary ever was Ray, which is a good legendary, not bad at all. Third Ancient Shard I ever opened on my main, and it was an amazing pull because I used her as a farmer, used her in PvE, all that. But she's not somebody you see talked about too much or really used like super in-game. She's still great. I just don't think it's somebody that people talk about that much. It's kind of the same thing with Tomblord, which is that Tomblord, I think, and just from looking at him and using him a lot, I haven't fully booked and I've used him a lot, is actually really, really good. Now, decreased speed is a debuff that is very useful when we're talking about bosses that can have it implemented. And like Fire Knight's a good example, okay? Decreased speed is actually a pretty good way to neuter a lot of these bosses. He has a triple hits with Giant Slayer effects. Now his A2 is, I personally believe, one of the best poisons in the game. If you look at it, it's a 100% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown. If the hit is critical, so you need a 100% crit rate, 70% chance, again, 100 when booked, of placing 5% poisons on all enemies. That's 4 of them. There's no other move in the game that does 4 5% poisons. Yes, those poisons can be triggered by Master Hexer, which will give it 2 turns instead of 1 turn. For this reason, he is the strongest wave nuker via like Zavia poison pops. He's even better than people like Battle or Dracomorph, to give you an idea, because 4 poisons on everyone that then gets popped is insane. If you look at this here on the A3, decreases the turn meter of all enemies with less than 50% HP by 100%. This resets their turn meter, basically. It brings it down to 0, and all they really have to do is have less than half HP. So if you do the poison, which he'll do first, by the way, then you do this move, after the Zavia goes and pops it, you can then reset the turn meter, for instance. That's kind of what I've been doing, for instance. Now, this is a 100% chance when booked of placing 50% decreased attack as well as 60% decreased defense, which is effectively Madame's A3 move minus the removing the buffs. And then he gets another turn if any of the enemy's turn meter is decreased by this skill. So effectively on auto, it will go like this, okay? I mean, on manual, you'll do this first. You'll do the A2 first because as a 3-turn cooldown, you're gonna do the A3 and all. But on auto, it's gonna go A3 into the A2, and then basic attack twice, A2, A3, and repeat. That's basically how it goes. You look at this, it's ally defense in arena battles by 42%. That's the highest in the game for defense in arena battles. So there is something to be said for tanky teams. I don't think that it's really a high tier platinum thing. You need Unresistible and Sifi and all these different crazy characters. But it is something that can be done in the beginning. Like if you pull Tomblord as your first legendary, you can completely build him out. He's not a waste. I still use him. I think I stripped my gear off him let me look real quick. I'm pretty sure I stripped my gear off of my Tomblord because I had to for some faction war stuff. Yeah, I pulled this one of the pieces off, but you can see I effectively build him accuracy so that way he lands the poisons with 100% crit rate. And yes, he is a Giant Slayer guy because you have that triple hit on the basic. So don't sleep on Tomblord. Very, very, very strong, very good utility character, very strong poisons, good on boss, good on waves especially. Usable in arena, but not amazing. The decreased speed, I mean, really Fire Knight's where he shines the most, but there's a lot of other play. You can even use him in Spider, for instance. Oh boy, now we're in the dwarves. Okay, the obvious best one's Tundra, but again, this is my favorite, not the best, Mountain King. I love Mountain King. If you didn't know, let me tell you my story about Mountain King, okay? So back in the day when I was in the content creation program, I was one of the only content creators to receive a free legendary. They actually sent me Mountain King to do a test review. There's actually a review on my channel of Mountain King pre-buff. I was the reason Mountain King got buffed. Back in the day, he used to only be based upon attack, and his HP was half of what it is. So what they used to have him be is just build him as much attack as you can, and he effectively sucked. You just put him in a ton of it. I mean, you could get him at 5k attack. It didn't matter. He was garbage. And so I sent that feedback and said, look, guys, this character is pure ass. So what they did was they buffed his HP, gave him 31,000 HP, the highest in the game, and then, or I believe it used to be anyway, when at the time of release, I don't know if it still is, and then gave his moves an HP ratio, which took him from trash to actually pretty good. Now you can put a shield set on him, have him hit pretty hard. They also changed his passive as well, where it stacks up to 100% now, which is pretty good. But unfortunately, the thing with Mountain King is if you don't build him pure tanky with lots of HP in his shield set, he's still kind of useless because unless you're talking like Platinum Arena, high tier gear, really nuking one person at a time has never been a meta. But then it's okay to have characters that aren't meta in the game that do something well in particular. And he does nuke one person with flat damage. But again, flat damage has never been, you know, that great, which is why when I crunched my Mountain King that they gave me as, you know, as part of, solidarity with you guys out there, I didn't even really feel that bad about it. You know, I mean, it was what it was. You know, we crunched one of them and then I pulled another one. So I still have 2 Mountain Kings. I would have 3 Mountain Kings right now if I didn't crunch one, but he's actually fun. Look at the reviews. You can see Arena. People like him in Arena. Elsewhere, people are saying he's pretty trash. Faction Wars, he's obviously great. I did use him in my Faction Wars 21 team. He's a fun character, and he does have uses. All right, so let me know what you thought of my list. Let me know your list. Give me your top 3 legendaries that you are a big fan of. What are your top 3 favorite? Leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video if you want to help me out, and subscribe to be notified of the next one, or you can hit the bell to be notified of the next one as well. Love y'all. Oop, bonus burp at the end.